Did Wizards of the Coast make the right decision? Is Sensei's Dividing Top that good? And some interesting restricted news on Vintage. All that and more in this episode of the MTG Update. Wizards of the Coast this morning announced that there is no additions to the banned or restricted list for standard or modern formats. The article states, as we stated in the last banned and restricted announcement, we are still watching the format closely, particularly the interaction between Felidar Guardian and Saheeli Rai, as well as the dominance of Mardu decks featuring Heart of Kiran. We have not seen the movement in the format we had hoped for with the Grand Prix in the latter half of the season, but we still believe we need to gather more data, particularly with the eye toward the effect of Amonkhet on the Pro Tour. Amonkhet has a number of exciting and powerful cards, both proactive in standard. As we have stated in the last banned and restricted announcement, we're still watching the format closely, particularly in the interaction between Felidar Guardian and Saheeli Rai, as well as the dominance of Mardu decks featuring Heart of Kiran. We have not seen the movement in the format we had hoped for with the Grand Prix in the latter half of the season, but we still believe we need to gather more data, particularly with an eye toward the effect of Amonkhet on the Pro Tour. Amonkhet has a number of exciting and powerful cards, both proactive and reactive, and too much can change with the introduction of that set. We don't want to ban something that might ultimately not have been a problem, or worse, create a potentially worse problem due to the lack of information. We need to let the players loose on this format and hope things turn out well, an outcome we believe is possible. However, if that does not happen, we will reevaluate the situation in a few weeks after the Pro Tour. So, this is slightly interesting. They know that there's a problem with both Felidar Guardian, Saheeli Rai combo, and Mardu, yet they choose not to do anything. I can understand that they believe that Amonkhet will have some pieces and might have some answers. However, I think rather than speculating on how something happens, they should be testing and figuring out what are some decks and answers to the Felidar Guardian combination. These are things that they should know ahead of time. In fact, if they're testing the sets appropriately, they should be able to identify if there is a legitimate answer coming from someone who develops products and can sit there and understand and predict what kind of issues that can happen if we take a certain path. This should be one of those things that R&D should be able to see. Some would ask, am I happy with the fact that they didn't announce any new bans for standard? That is a loaded question. In one hand, I can say yes. On another hand, I can say no. As somebody who wants to create new and exciting things and go to play Friday Night Magic, or even try to become a competitive player, it becomes increasingly more impossible with the fact that they do not know how to police the format as well as they should. With the amount of ban cycles that they have, and the fact that R&D should be able to understand what cards can and cannot affect the meta, seeing that they have designed and created the set to work within the current meta, and they designed sets for standard, they should be able to understand much better on how to make sets work appropriately. They have data that states that these decks are dominating the format. If they see a problem, they should be able to sit there and research and figure out, is there going to be a continuing problem? Coming from somebody who develops applications and also is paid and trained to understand and predict how things are going to basically work moving forward, we then have to figure out issues or bottlenecks going forward when it comes to working on a project. This idea is something that is quite basic and simple when developing a new application, or in their case, a new set. Now, let's move on to Modern. In the article, it states, in Modern, Death's Shadow continues to be the best deck, but technology like Condemn is starting to emerge, and the format appears to be in a safe spot at the moment. While deck diversity is good, we're keeping an eye on color balance. If there's an easy change to the ban list and that could open up more decks in the future, we'll examine it when other formats have less pressing needs. Okay, so hold on one second. Let's go ahead and confirm a couple of things that Wizards of the Coast has been very consistent on lately. That the fact that they are not closely paying attention to the Modern format. For instance, in the article, it even says, if there's an easy change, they'll make it. However, there's other formats that have more pressing issues. Hold on a second. Are you saying that they're not paying attention to the Modern format? Duh. People are saying for a long time now that they don't care about the Modern format. Now, they do continuously look at it, but based on this article, they're saying they care less about Modern than they do about other formats. Again, this is staying consistent to what they've been either A, saying that they're going to do, which taking Modern out of the competitive format, competitive scene, and the fact that they're focusing more on Standard. Now, here's the thing that drives me bonkers. They're saying, we will look at Modern when there's less of a need to look at other formats, for instance, Standard. But from what I can see, they're not really doing anything with Standard right now. So why in the world, or where in the world are they spending their time? Are they spending it on another planet? Are they spending it on building another set that's going to hopefully make an answer for Feldar Guardian? I think one of the things that I'm having a difficulty understanding is how that this is your product. This is your thing that you put out on an annual basis, multiple times in a year. How do you not understand how the cards are going to interact with others? You developed this program, you developed this game, you developed this whole thing. Now, are you going to understand every single bit and piece of the game? No, but I think you as a company should understand that one small word, for instance, Feldar Guardian, how that got passed, that was a mistake. They never corrected the mistake, and they're still not correcting that mistake. They believe that there's an answer in Amonkhet. Much like in Modern, they believe that there's an answer to Death's Shadow, and that's in the card of Condemn. Now, one card cannot define a format. In fact, one card can't even change the format. But the problem is, it's not just a single card issue. It's a whole format-wide issue. Finally, to wrap it up, we have Legacy and Vintage. Now, I don't claim to know much about Vintage or Legacy. I don't play either format. However, I do find this ban interesting. The article states, in Legacy, Miracles, a deck that is focused on combining Counterbalance and Sensei's Divine and Top to control whatever opponents can or mostly cannot resolve, has been the best deck in the format for some time. We are hopeful that this would change over time, but it has not. That alone is not necessarily enough to move a card from the deck, but Sensei's Divining Top comes with its own host of issues that center around the timely conclusion of matches in a tournament setting. The necessity of repeated top activations to play the card slows down the match play and leads to tournament delays. Coupled with the power of the Miracles deck, this is reason enough to take action on top. Therefore, Sensei's Divining Top is banned in Legacy. Okay, so you banned Sensei's Divining Top. But here's a quick history. Sensei's Divining Top came out 12 years ago, in 2005. Now, Miracles has also been a deck for quite some time. I don't know how long it takes R&D to understand how a deck is going to be a problem within a format. But I imagine, even though I'm not a Legacy player, this deck, this configuration, likely has been around for some time, as they have also stated in their article. How does it take this long to react to a card? This kind of slow reaction also can create a problem for people who buy Magic the Gathering cards to play the game. Sensei's Divining Top was recently reprinted in Eternal Masters. This just came out last year. Sensei's Divining Top had a much needed reprint, which led to people getting the copies that they were looking for, including foil copies of the top. A lot of people wanted to get their hands on them. Now they're using them. Now they're banned. So hold on a second. Is Legacy not another format that they're looking at closely that is a pressing issue, like they also indicated in the article that they were talking about that has the bannings for both Legacy, Modern, and Standard? I'm confused. So in Legacy, Sensei Divining Top got a much needed reprint 9 months ago, and now you can no longer play with it in Legacy. Womp womp. Okay, so let's move on to Vintage. So 2 cards get to see a restricted list edition. Gitaxian Probe, which was recently just banned in Modern, and Gush. Now, again, I don't necessarily play in Vintage, so I'm not really sure how this impacts the format. I look to you guys in the comments below to let me know what you guys think about those restrictions and the banning of Sensei's Divining Top. Final thoughts. I think Wizards of the Coast is trying to do their best at policing the formats. One of the things they are not doing favors for themselves is creating more controversy around their own strategy. When they talk about in this article that they're focusing on other formats that have more pressing issues, what formats are those? Are they Commander? Are they Standard? Are they Modern? They're Legacy? Question is it's unclear. And in fact, in most of their communications to their players, they're not 100% clear. Now, by any means, do they need to spell it out for everybody? Of course not. That is not what they need to do. Companies can do what they want. However, if they're trying to create a player base that needs to trust them, they need to understand how to put that into words or no words at all. Wizards of the Coast, this is a message for you. You really need to do some more market research. A couple of things that I'm failing to understand based on my research on Wizards of the Coast and how they go about their business and talking to players and talking to other YouTube creators. Standard is in a very bad position. It's almost unplayable in certain areas. I frequent many of my local game stores and nobody really wants to play Standard. I'm trying to understand where Wizards of the Coast is getting their information. Now, MTGO is not a place where people go and play on a regular basis. In fact, large part MTGO community is based on the professional circuit of Magic the Gathering, not casual play players. Because most casual play players will not buy physical game cards and, meaning paper Magic, and go play Magic the Gathering online. I don't, the people that I play with don't, and the people that I have been around and people that I've talked to in the local game stores that I've been at, including GPs, do not play Magic the Gathering online. So if they're getting their statistics from Magic the Gathering online, they're missing a critical, huge piece of the community when it comes to response and information. Friday Night Magic does not collect data on what decks you are playing, so they cannot use Friday Night Magic statistics in order to come up with any information. So here's the problem. Wizards of the Coast says that they are using data and information to make these decisions. But where are they getting this data? And how are they sitting here getting data from Friday Night Magic or the casual players who spend the money on the game? Do they say then that all the pro players make up the majority of their income when it comes to buying cards and growing the business? If they think that, then they're really sitting there shooting themselves in the foot. Wizards of the Coast needs to pay attention to the people who play the game on a daily, weekly, regular basis, who actually go and buy packs, go into the stores, and sit there and really enjoy the game, like myself. Now, I know this last half has turned into a rant, but here's the thing. The banning I can be okay with. if at some point they're going to take action. As I said in the last video, their history of banning in Standard has been very small. In fact, in the last 18 years, they've seen 17 cards banned. 18 years and 17 cards banned. 8 of them happened in 2005. Now, I'm not saying that they have to ban a bunch of different cards. What I am saying is they really should sit there and think about their players and think about their fan base and think about the people who actually make the game continue to go on and on. Without us buying cards, I mean, I buy a lot of products. You see it behind me. I trade for product, I get product, I like the game. But if they continue to make the game unplayable and continue to make the game where I myself cannot go to a local game store and play in Friday Night Magic or try to break into going to competitive Magic and doing GPs, then they're going to lose a player in me. In fact, it is likely that I could sell my collection at some point. Wizards of the Coast, please sit there and take some time and really look at your format and do exactly what you're asking to do. You're asking us to trust you. You're asking us to entrust you to make the right decisions for us, the players. However, when you sit there and tell us that there's other formats that have pressing issues, when you're talking about other formats, for instance, when you're talking about Modern, you're saying, okay, we're not going to do anything for Modern because there's other formats that have more pressing issues, but you're not doing anything. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and I hope you have a good day.